Sean.
Marco.
We are here to deliver a message from the RSA conference team.
It's an important message from our friends. RSA Conference 2025, just around the corner, where insights drive action, solutions emerge, and community connections spark innovation. You'll be there. I'll be there. We invite everybody else to be there April 28th through May 1st. You can secure your spot at rsaconference.com/ITSPMAG25. That's ITSPMAG25. See you all there.
I'll be there. See you there.
We're here with the father of SIEM, Hugh Njemanze.
Very good.
Good to see you, Hugh.
Good to see you.
We've crossed paths as competitors years ago and as potential partners after that. I was at Big Yellow, you were at ArcSight.
That's right.
And a lot has changed.
A lot has changed.
Since the early world of SIEM and all that stuff. So we're going to get into some of that, and really what I want to get into is what you're doing with Anomali and some of the cool stuff that you announced today. Before we do that, a bit of your background so folks know all the fun things you were involved with before, and then leading into Anomali, what you're doing now.
Sure. Well, as Sean mentioned, I founded a company called Anomali back in 2000, a long time ago, and it was one of the instigators of the SIEM category, and essentially solved the problem of collecting logs from every type of device on your network and identifying actionable security incidents. So that takes a lot of integrations, and it's a category that is still thriving 25 years later, even though people like to say it's dead when they market their own SIEMs.
Right.
So, yeah. And along the way, or post ArcSight, I founded Anomali in 2013, which was initially known as ThreatStream, and became Anomali in 2016.
Yes. Yeah, I remember ThreatStream. Yeah, exactly.
And that's been a very fun journey. We started out really focused on making threat intelligence something that large enterprises could use to bolster up their defenses. And at the moment, we have come full circle, introduced a next generation SIEM a few months ago, which combines the power of threat intelligence with extreme power of a next generation SIEM that breaks barriers in terms of orders of magnitude, not percentage points. So happy to talk about that.
Well, let's do that. So is that speed, detection, reduced false positives, all the above? What else?
All of the above, plus very strong application of AI, in particular Agentic AI, which we can talk about, but also a scale in performance that hasn't been seen before. We basically built a from the ground up native cloud platform. And what that means is we can harness the full power of a large cloud provider, such as Amazon or the others, which means you ask a question, we can immediately bring thousands of servers to bear on that question, answer the question in seconds. That would take hours or even days in what are considered state-of-the-art SIEMs today. So it literally is night and day.
So instead of trying to figure out what the information is in the SIEM, you can actually almost have a conversation with it. So what are some of the types of queries or prompts, if you will?
Sure.
So like one I would imagine is, am I vulnerable, or are there any indicators of X, Y, and Z attack that we hear on the news today, right?
Right. So for people who are not steeped in how AI applies to security, if we go back all the way to search, search became a very powerful tool for security tools because we collect a lot of data. You want to filter through it, siphon through it, identify either groups of events that are related or could be related, and so forth. So search is powerful. You have to write queries. That's complicated. People need special skills. Then AI kind of burst back onto the scene 2 or 3 years ago with the advent of ChatGPT.
Right.
And you could characterize that as a conversational search. You ask the system questions, and it answers you not based on just the words in the question, but based on the meaning overall of the question, the semantic meaning of the question. And that involved those AIs ingesting a lot of human information, equivalent of the World Wide Web, for example. Now, the latest state of the art and where most of the research is going on is known as Agentic AI at the moment. And the
Give
difference,
us the definition of what
Yeah.
that is for folks.
So
They've probably heard the term at this point, but trying to
Exactly.
figure out what it means.
So Agentic AI embeds the word agent, and it means that the AI can perform a task on your behalf that might require multiple steps. So in other words, it's behaving like a human. A human, given a research question, might decide to search one place and then search another, and then perform the calculation. So the Agentic AI, a good one, is going to tell you these are the steps I'm going to go through to address this problem.
Right.
It will show you each step, it will show you the result, and then it will give you a completed task or an answer. An example of a use case, not in security, would be an Agentic AI booking a trip for you that involved multiple flights and figuring out, well, if the middle flight lands one day later, then I have to change the hotel booking, and da-da-da. So Agentic AI just means it's the next step forward in having the system be an expert working on your behalf.
Right. And are these typically purpose-built? Because I think general AI may not work perfectly for every specific thing you'd want, and
Exactly.
perhaps Agentic AI is a little more purpose-built for a specific task, trained by
Very
specific
true.
data with
Yes.
specific models.
And that applies double for security.
Right.
Because when you use AI for security solutions, you cannot afford to have hallucinations, as they're known in the industry. Hallucinations is when the AI confidently gives you the wrong answer and supports it with facts. The facts may not be real, but they sound very convincing. And so in our field, we have to take extra care to design our algorithms so that our AI answers cannot be hallucinatory. All right? That means we essentially create our own walled garden with information that is pertinent just to that customer,
Okay.
to that environment, and to that set of threats. And then the AI takes as many steps as necessary to assemble all the research and deliver that information. One key advantage that our AI has is when it asks questions, it's asking a search engine that's more than 1,000 times faster than anything else. That means that
This is the work you did previously.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That means it can do research that would take days or weeks for an analyst to do by hand using today's normal search engines.
So give me a few examples. Is this for looking for indicators? Is it looking for the root source of the compromise, or do we see any signs? That would be another indicator of compromise.
Those
give
are
me
all
some of the
good
tasks
examples.
that
I'll
an
give you
analyst
one.
might
Yeah.
be sitting in front of and be
So,
overwhelmed, and now they're...
For example, a bulletin, a briefing gets published by some security agency.
Okay.
You access it as a file, could be a PDF, a Word document, or a HTML document. That document might be 100 pages long. You could go read through it, and somewhere in there's going to be references to malicious actors. There's going to be references to the techniques they're using.
Okay.
There's going to be references to what they're targeting. The AI will read that entire document in a few seconds flat. Okay. Then the hundreds of references that somebody would have to extract and then Google for, it's actually going to look up all of those references, and it's going to cross-reference them against the history of your own network. So if one of those malicious actors mentioned in the document touched your network 6 months ago or 2 years ago, it will tell you. It will give you a timeline. It will then recommend steps you should take, whether they're to mitigate or to defend.
Okay.
It will also assess your current defenses against threats that have not yet targeted you, including the ones that have. Okay. All of this happens while you're sitting there. We do this regularly in a desktop demo, conference room demo,
Okay.
and we see people's eyes start by rolling in skepticism and then being amazed.
Well, you've piqued my interest when you said, what are your defenses?
Yeah.
How are you getting that information?
So we basically support a framework known as the MITRE ATT&CK framework. And so what we do is we map the system scans of your network, whether it's vulnerability scans or equipment scans, or a CDMA, the database.
Okay.
And then we compare those to the various techniques that the bad actors use and the paths that they would take, attacks that have been attempted, reconnaissance that has been done on your system, and we use that to prioritize which systems you should fortify and what is the risk and cost for that particular target to be breached.
Okay. So mean, what you've built, I had a dream of many years ago. So it's really cool to see this come together. All the information, all the context, all the metadata, consolidated, normalized, analyzed at speed now. And with the Agentic AI, some answers and perhaps some tasks can be completed automatically. Where does the analyst fit in? Where does their manager fit in? Where does the security program leader fit in now?
Well,
in
I would say those jobs become more and more managerial and strategic, in the sense that what you want to be doing is prioritizing how am I going to apply resources, which of these apparently equally scored impacted systems are actually more meaningful to the organization.
Okay.
So you start to get into things that are maybe not in the metrics, and the humans are going to be providing more and more of the judicious type of decisions.
Okay. So you said another magic word for me, metrics. Okay. So for decades we've had the MTTX metrics for how well is our SOC functioning, right?
Yeah.
Do those still apply? Do they change? Does the mindset need to be different for the analyst?
They still apply. We have a customer, a very large finance customer, who just ripped out their old system, I won't name it, and replaced it with ours last fall. And they told us about a week ago that they have had 88% fewer incidents since our system was switched on.
So does that mean false positive they were getting a lot of, or they're not having to respond because your system is responding?
They are
on their
detecting
behalf?
things before they turn into incidents. Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So that's one example of a metric that was shared with us by a very proud and happy customer.
I'd say so.
Yeah. And of course we're proud too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Since we're on that topic, any other examples of burnout's been a thing for a long time. I doubt it's not as prime topic this year, it seems. Maybe more for the CISO than the analyst. Any anecdotes or stories about the mental health and fortitude of the analyst team?
Sure.
Because they're not overwhelmed, or they're not struggling trying to find stuff that's difficult or impossible to find.
I'll give you an example that might be relevant. So a different customer told me that it used to be they had trouble maintaining more than 2 or 3 trained specialists at any time for the product they were using before. First of all, because there's a steep learning curve, and second of all, because after people go up that learning curve, they get poached. Okay? And what he told me is, since our product has been deployed, a much broader percentage of the team is using the tool directly because it is that accessible. So I would say that both gives people job security and mental comfort, because before there were a few priests and now everybody can be an expert.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah.
Let's, if you're cool with it, let's talk about risk management.
Okay.
And perhaps some of the information that the security team now has available to say, here's our exposure, here's how we're mitigating things, and we can have a better conversation with our executive leadership team and perhaps even the board.
Well, here's something we do that has not lived in a single system before. Okay, there's a space in security called attack surface management. Okay, and that's about knowing which of your systems could be vulnerable to attack. Okay, and then there's the threat detection space. Okay, our system ingests all of the information about your attack surface, compares it to all activity on your network, shows you who is interested in the things that are attackable. Okay, so before, you either knew what was attackable or who was attacking you, but you were not able to narrow it down to these machines are attackable and they are being threatened.
Okay.
Right? And so that allows this kind of triaging that I was talking about before, where a team can have a very strong sense of what to focus on to stay safe.
Okay. And so the system as a whole, does that include the I presume the operating system and applications on it.
Yeah.
Because I have another dream,
Yeah.
I have this dream, that security, especially with the system you've put in place, certainly, has so much knowledge about the network, the infrastructure, the workflows, the business processes, and the exposure and the weaknesses that I believe we have a chance to guide the business to say, if we design this differently or build it from the start differently, we can reduce the exposure, reduce the need to patch, reduce the need to respond in incident. So have you experienced that with your solution and your customers?
That is relevant and true on multiple fronts. One front is we are now getting much more interest in business level strategic reports from the system. So it's no longer IP addresses and individual attackers. It's more, what are the campaigns? What are they targeting? Is it related to this acquisition we want to do, et cetera? So we're getting much more interest in answering business level questions. The other thing is just the sheer scale of our product has allowed customers that were maxed out on their previous licenses, for example, maybe they were ingesting 8 terabytes a day.
I was going to ask you about this.
Now they can move up to 40 terabytes plus, okay? And I should mention that our cost per terabyte is significantly less than anybody else on the market. So this is not something where you pay more to get more. Right. It's something where you can save money and at the same time upgrade your defenses.
So I had a chat with Ali Mellon from Forrester, and she was talking about the number of incidents. Is low good? Is a lot good? And, what's your when you're speaking to the security leadership team? What's that conversation sound like with them? What are they experiencing? How do you respond? And what's the final common ground for what matters?
I'll tell you firsthand what I've heard in these conversations with security leaders. One of the metrics that they try to figure out is what percentage visibility do they have? In other words, out of everything that's impinging on them, how much of it can they even see? Okay? So part of that is addressed by being able to ingest more than 90 days. Maybe you want to keep 5 years, 15 years, okay? Another part is being able to ingest from more of your sources. So we're agnostic about the sources. Typically, SIEMs focus on network type sources, and then EDR will focus on host sources. We ingest everything.
Okay.
And because we have the volume to do so, so it doesn't matter whether it's NetFlow or EDR data or network data, because we ingest everything and we ingest it over a longer period of time, they can ask better questions and expect the answers sooner, and that directly impacts their visibility score. Okay. So we've had people tell us they went from less than 20% to north of 60% in months.
Very cool. Yeah, because one of the things I'm looking back in time now, and one of the biggest challenges, you probably experienced this as well, is the collection of that data and the connection points between the SIEM at all these different layers of the infrastructure, and then obviously all the different types and formats. And,
that's right.
How have you addressed that with Anomali so that you can actually pull all that stuff out?
I would say that would probably be the biggest challenge for any, let's say, next-gen SIEM vendor thinking they're going to displace anybody, okay? The challenge is, how are you going to migrate all the IP they've built over the years? How are you going to redirect all the traffic that's going to their SIEM, okay? This is all stuff that we took into consideration from the outset designing our product, because some of us used to be a SIEM vendor in the past. And as I mentioned, we've been able to migrate customers, large enterprise customers, that are now running a bigger deployment than they ever ran in the past. We've been able to deploy those customers in 3 to 6 months, where they were able to turn off the other product. Wow. Not just go live with us, but turn off the other product. And because that's the only way they're going to actually get to save the money. If they have to run both, then it's just more budget.
Yeah. not the answer you want to give your
part of
leadership
this
team and budget team.
Is due to the fact that we can leverage AI, for example, to do IP conversion from another system to our system. So we're trying to eat our own dog food. Right.
Yeah, I can see all the use cases here. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Anything you want to close with? Maybe a word of welcome, or a word of advice, or a question that maybe you'd like to ask the CISO community or the security leadership community?
Well, thanks for all your questions to start with. They've been very insightful, and really I haven't had to come up with anything that you didn't ask me. So,
there we go. That's good.
That's
I appreciate that.
I guess a word of advice would be to be open-minded in assessing systems. Obviously, it's easy for me to say that because we're less well-known as a SIEM than other vendors. But if you just do an assessment and identify what your goals are, pick the best tool for the job.
It's good advice, and funny enough, I've heard that a few times from a few of my CISO friends.
Yeah.
Being open
Yeah.
to explore and understand, not shut off because they don't want to disrupt what's going on.
And I would say the people who have adopted us early are not only successful, but they were pioneers in taking that kind of a risk on us.
Yep.
Because not many people, I think, in the old days it used to be you could never get fired for buying IBM, right? So people are taking that same kind of risk now, and happily for us, that's a good thing.
Sounds like you demonstrate the risk is worth taking too, so very cool. Hugh, fantastic, my friend.
Pleasure.
Lovely chatting with you. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
It's deeply rooted in me and my past, so I love the topic. It sounds like you're doing some really cool things. So check out Anomali, connect with Hugh, stay tuned to ITSP Magazine for more stories. Thanks everybody for listening and watching. See you soon.
Thanks, John.
Sean,
Marco.
we are here to deliver a message from the RSA conference team.
It's an important message from our friends. RSA Conference 2025, just around the corner, where insights drive action, solutions emerge, and community connections spark innovation. You'll be there. I'll be there. We invite everybody else to be there April 28th through May 1st. You can secure your spot at rsaconference.com/ITSPMAG25. That's ITSPMAG25. See you all there.
I'll be there. See you there.